Hey, this is Zac.
And I'm Clint, and we wanted to thank Exoterra for sponsoring this episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Exoterra is the industry leader in glass terrarium enclosures, and we are a big fan of getting to see the species we work with both at home and at the university.
We utilize Exoterra caging here at Metazotics, and in addition to top quality terrariums, Exoterra offers an array of heating options, lighting, supplements, decor, and truthfully anything needed or wanted when keeping reptiles.
Thank you, Exoterra, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Zac here, as always, with my good friend, the one and only Clint Bartley, who is a little under the weather tonight, guys. So we got to give him a little bit of a break. He needs some hugs.
This is true. not feeling my best, but the show must go on. So
exactly, we lead by example.
Make sure we got this done. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to this one for a while. So I mean, I couldn't miss this.
Yeah. So tonight we have John Poff from the new kingsnake.com. If you're younger, I would say if you're probably under the age of like 35, 30-ish, you may not really know what kingsnake.com was because Facebook kind of rolled in and took its place in a manner of speaking. But if you're older, over the age of 35, this was the first place that was the epicenter of the herpetocultural community. And very special to me, very special to Clint. Obviously special to John. So tonight is an episode in honor of kingsnake.com, and we're going to be focusing on the past, the present, and the future because John's doing some wonderful things with this icon of herpetoculture. And we are happy and feel privileged to be able to introduce it to some of our audience for the first time. So, I think that's about the best intro I could do for it. So there we go.
With you. Nailed it.
All right, thanks. But moving on to our banter, Clint's sick. I have a ruined floor. Things are great. This cold weather can get the blank out of here. If you're in the East Coast, I like cold. I like winter. I'm a big guy. I sweat. I embrace cold. But this subarctic BS that's been going on now for literally over 2 weeks, done. It's got to go away. It has reached the point of cold here in the East where it got up to 30 degrees in Wheeling, and there were people walking around campus in short sleeve shirts. Like we have all acclimated to Hoth. That's what we've done. So when it gets to just that freezing, we're like, oh, it's so warm outside. Where normally that's when the coats would come on. So, but my big update, and then I'll segue to Clint, is we have been battling at the university frozen pipes. My poor graduate students, they live in a house. And on Thursday of last week, there's 3 young ladies that live in this house. And nobody told me until like 1 or 2 in the afternoon on Friday, the pipes froze in our house. They had no water, so they couldn't flush a toilet. They couldn't turn on a sink. So we had to do triage and get them. I had nothing to do with it. They did it. But, the university was great. Put them in an apartment. We have this facility we call the biology house. It's an old house. We've been running water. That's what you do if you're from places like Los Angeles and never have to deal with this. Somebody didn't know that, and they thought they were doing their due diligence. So they ran through the house and turned off all the water. It was 1 degree, and there was a student in there, and then it started raining from the heavens down upon them when a pipe blew. Water and electricity is not cool, so we had to deal with that. And then the penultimate, and I wish I could show this video, but I can't. I'm not allowed. I asked. My brand new conservation facility with its brand new floor, a pipe that was on an outside wall froze. It's never frozen before. And when they freeze, the water expands and the pressure builds. And if the pipe isn't great, they explode. And then the ice falls out, but then you still have water. So water gushes out. And we had a river in the Aquatic Conservation Center. So somebody told me today, isn't that the point of the building? To conserve aquatic environments, make new ones. And I was like, it's too soon. So I have a $30,000 laminate floor that I now don't have anymore. So yeah, no, don't mean to be so negative, guys, but it's been a week, and it's permit season for me, which means I got to fill out all these permits, and I'm submitting 6 state collection permits to do all the research that is being generated out of the herpetology and the crayfish lab, and every one of them requires bits and pieces that are kind of intriguing and interesting. So got that in today, though. But yeah, no. But you went someplace over the weekend that was new for everybody, and that might have been where you got sick.
Well, I'm pretty sure that I probably got it before, just because of the timing of everything. But so we went to the Southeast Reptile Expo in Atlanta. And it was funny how so much of this worked out, because I had put in for some tables and it was sold out. So I wasn't going to be able to get in. And so we weren't planning on it. And we already have another show booked in Kentucky on, this past weekend. And on Monday, I get a message from Bob Vu, who runs that show. And the message was, "What are you doing this weekend?" I knew what that meant, So, I'm guessing you had some tables come available. And because of all the snow, some individuals coming from like Jersey, something like that, got snowed in, couldn't make it. And so being that it is a real big, when I say up and coming, like I've heard nothing but very positive things about the show. And we really did want to get in, because I kind of see it as still getting in early and getting yourself established to where you have your spot, you have the number of tables you want, you can keep it that way. So we jumped to it, made it happen. Got very lucky, because like I was afraid I was going to have to try to shuffle schedules and everything. One of our associates, Kaylee, was already scheduled off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm like, "Hey, Kaylee, do you want to do a show in Atlanta?" And she was all for it. So, so she was, luckily it all worked. And so then what we had to decide was like, what are we taking? Because at this time of year, it's funny, whenever I say we're low, that's very relative speaking. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's just in comparison to, if we're doing, because we had 4 tables there, and we had 6 tables at this other show that we were doing on Sunday. And this was a Saturday, Sunday show. So it's like, okay, we now have to come up with 10 tables worth of stuff, to make sure, and still keep 2 stores full. So what we decided was Ox, who was doing the Bowling Green, Kentucky show, was going to take mainly product and some animals.
Yep.
We weren't going to take product. We're going to take a few caging, some of the Metazotics cages that we have, and then go heavy on animals. And I am glad we made that call, because it was a great show. It was funny. I'm very familiar with the area, because it's actually Duluth, Georgia, Lawrenceville, which is just north of Atlanta. And that's where the corporate office was for the company I worked with.
Oh, cool.
40 years. So it's like, when I look at the address, I'm like, I know this road. I know I've stayed in these hotels, so, so it was very familiar, when we went out there. But show it was great. I mean, what was interesting about this show is it was about as combined of Pomona and Tinley. If you combine those 2 shows, that's what this show was. Meaning the layout was like Pomona, but the displays were like Tinley. So you're just talking overall elevation. It was a good mix of animals, as far, you can tell that Bob's tried to keep it where it's not all one-sided as far as the type of vendors. And it was good. I got to Rob and Amy were right next to us, set up. I got to talk with them all weekend. Josh Alder was there, several others that, we just love getting to talk to. I do want to say something that happened out there that warmed my heart. And I know that she will hear this at some point if she's not on here right now. So they got a winter storm. And, and I mean, man, this was.
We are throwing shade, Southeast.
Heavy shade. Heavy. Because literally restaurants were closed early. We're trying to figure out some place to go eat on Saturday. And I'm looking at my GPS and it says route may be affected due to winter storm. And I'm like, I look at my phone, then I just look out the windshield and I'm like, where? There was literally nothing. I mean, there's a little, when I say dusting, I don't mean like, oh, there's a thin layer of snow. No, there was like 2 3-by-3 foot sections where I saw a little haze of white on something. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But so anyways, they were supposed to get snow. And while, you know, we're there, this is on Saturday, an attendee comes up and she says, you're not on the vendor list. And I go, no, it was kind of last minute, you know, this week that decided, you know, we were going to be able to come and came in. And she says, oh my God, I love the show so much. I almost didn't come today because of the snow. If I would have stayed home and then found out afterwards that you were here, I would have been so upset. And she was starting to tear up as she was saying this. It was the sweetest thing. And so sweetie, come around this table and give me a hug. You know what I mean? And just give her a big hug. And, you know, she came by several times throughout the weekend. She's sweet lady. And, you know, we really, really do appreciate you being a listener.
Sure do.
It means a lot, you know, and there were a few others that I got to meet for the first time that are listeners. And that's, again, I never go south for shows.
Yep.
And so it was a new area, getting to meet people that listen and, you know, hearing the good things that they think that we're doing. So it was great. That was just so cool. And the show was phenomenal from a sales standpoint for us. I mean, we're talking like Tinley kind of phenomenal. Yeah. It was huge. I know it went well for a lot of others. Some, you know, maybe not as much. But yeah, it definitely was great for us and something we'll be doing again, no doubt. I will say it's rare I get to do this anymore. Normally I'm only buying for the shop, but I did pick me some things up this time. So
you mean Clint?
Yeah. I was able to get a lot of neat things for the shop. Like, I mean, Argentine boa, which I plan on doing Argentines, but I want to get very specific on my lineages and things like that whenever I'm going to get into them. But picked up Dumerals, Argentine, some melanistic whites tree frogs. I think those are pretty cool. And I probably picked up like 30 ball pythons because we're almost out here. So I needed those. But the highlight for me, and I know he's a listener, so he's going to know this too, was I got a pair of Angolian pythons, and I've been wanting, I've wanted them for so long. So yeah, we've got a pair, and I'm like, yeah, those are staying here. Those are going to be added to the collection, no doubt. So pretty stoked about that. So
very cool.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff. And, you know, like I said, all in, great show. The crazy thing, I started to feel bad. Like, I didn't sleep well Friday night. Actually Thursday night, because we left Friday morning. I didn't sleep well Thursday night. I didn't sleep well Friday night. And towards the end of Saturday, I'm really tired, and I'm thinking I might be fighting something. Maybe I'm starting to come down with something. And on Sunday, I could feel it. I could feel, you know, scratchy, you know, throat. I could feel just all of it. But it was okay. It was like, you know, we'll just get through this day. And then the scary part was 7 hours of driving home, after that night. Sunday show. Yeah. But I thought, well, you know, I'll be okay. So we get it all packed up. We're driving home. We get just past all the Atlanta crap because we wanted to stop and get something to eat, but I don't want to do it there. I want to get out of the big city area. So we stop at Culver's, and I love Culver's. Yeah. So we stop at Culver's, and it was cold. It was 30 degrees is what it was. 30 degrees. Now, That's cold, but that's if I needed to go get something out of my car, I'm not putting a sweatshirt on. I would go outside in a t-shirt, even shorts, long enough to get whatever I needed. Maybe if I was taking the trash out, I take the trash down the driveway, meaning I'm well insulated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can handle.
I do know what you mean, Clint.
Yes, I can handle 30 degrees. So I think I must have just been hitting like a fever point where my body was going into a chill, and I got out of that truck and it hit me. And you know how you get you'll shake and your teeth will chatter. My body was like convulsing with this. I couldn't stand up straight. I'm like, what the hell is happening to me? And Kaylee, poor Kaylee, who's with me, this little bitty thing, she's fine, and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, let's just get inside, because if I fall down, you're not going to be able to pick me up. So I go into Culver's, and it takes me like 15, 20 minutes just to get level again. And I'm like terrified to walk back outside to get in this truck. But no, I got back in. I was, okay. Drove about halfway, and then Kaylee, I know she was nervous about it because it was a big truck hauling a trailer, all that. But she jumped in and just let me pass out and start resting. So, but yeah, it was scary. It was nothing, I've really experienced before.
Gosh.
But fun.
What time did you get home?
I think around 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that.
Okay.
Midnight.
Damn.
Yeah. So it was fiasco. But
well, no,
but it was, it was worth it.
Worth doing
business. So
cool. All righty. Well, I don't have anything really other than pipes blowing up. It's false water cobra breeding season. They're breeding like rabbits. That's pretty much what's to be expected. It is pretty awkward when there are two very large snakes mating in your office, and then students come in that don't know what's going on in there, and they're like, why are they wrestling like that? And I'm like, they're making babies. There's no way in 2026 to not say that and feel like you're not going to get canceled in some way.
You just got to
even with biology majors. So I just let her roll, and we're going to see what's going to happen.
Just tell them when a daddy false water cobra really loves a mommy false water cobra.
Yeah. Where did you think those 255 babies came from, kids? So anyway, yeah. But I did have something happen that's never happened before with the breeding, which was really weird last week. So I pair them up in January. January came to an end, so they're basically done. And my big breeder females are in my office because I make sure that I see locks and everything. And so I had there's two big breeders in there. So there were actually two mating all week for the past 2 weeks. And I don't understand what the hell happened, but I'm at my computer, and these are not small snakes. The male is 6.5 feet. The female is every bit of 8 feet. She weighs right around 9.5 pounds. She is a monster. She's basically a blackhead python, if you know their dimensions. And all of a sudden, all hell starts breaking loose. And I look from my computer, up into the cave, and I just see snakes going everywhere in this 6-foot viv. And the male somehow, I don't know how he did this, but he was facing the opposite direction of the female and got locked upside down. And he didn't like that. And she didn't like that either. And they were thrashing around. Well, I have an LED light in there, and her head clipped the cable and pulled it down. And then they got up in there and were thrashing around. And so now they're all wrapped up in a cable with electricity. And that's all going on. So that was kind of fun to deal with. I had there was an audience for me dealing with that. And I was like, could you all give them some privacy while I try to figure out what the hell is going on in here? So that was a new one. Never seen that happen before. Apparently they stayed like that through the entire weekend. So there you go. So we have babies coming. I don't know how I don't have babies coming. That was my high black bear that was doing that. So anyway. All right, moving on. we're going to do science update now, if that's cool with you.
Yep.
So science update is brought to us by our friends from Rare Genetics Inc. As always, get your sheds to Kayla and Ben. And I have a little bit of an announcement. So Kayla works at a animal rehab facility, and she caught wind that I am rehabbing turtles, and she had some box turtles and wanted the box turtles to get to us, and had made arrangements to actually come to West Liberty and drop the turtles off, which is pretty cool. That was arranged for when Storm Fern was coming through, so she had to put it off a week. So Kayla was actually at West Liberty yesterday, which is pretty cool. And she asked me, I was sitting on my couch, talking to her the day before she was coming, trying to figure out where she was going to stay and everything. And she asked if she could take scale clippings. So she actually took scale clippings of over, oh my God, like 45 Florida king snake morphs. She basically was like, I think that you have single-handedly given us the genetics we need to do all the Florida king snake morphs. And I was like, yep. And she went into our collection and took some, we had a couple hognose morphs that John Rice from Fathom Hogs had given me that were kind of rare. So she took those clippings. She just basically gallivanted across our collection at West Liberty with a little pair of scissors, taking cuticle cuts on the ventral scale. So nice. West Liberty has now contributed directly to RGI. And given my association with CCR, I'm going to say CCR did too. So there we go.
Thank you, Kayla. While Kayla was there with you, guess where Sean and Ben were? At the Southeast Reptile Expo with me.
There you go.
Yeah, so got to talk to them quite a bit as well. And they do a contest where it's a kind of best of, where different vendors can put out a snake or a gecko, or all these different categories, and then they have 3 judges come and rate all of them.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, it was, and I was one of the judges. Actually, got to participate in that, and so it was really cool, and it's always great seeing those guys. So
very, very cool. Okay, so all this jabber jawing, and I forgot to do what I needed to do. So tonight's science. By the way, get your shed skins to RGI. They're going to be looking at those snips for us. They're going to be helping the colubrid community. We love them to death. So do that. And if you have a snake that you want to confirm the sex with, $25 is not that expensive to know you have a male and a female. I keep meaning to ask them if any snake will do, but I have some blood pythons that are driving me crazy with probing and everything. And I was like, I can just send them some tissue and they can tell me what the damn sex is, and I don't have to question, because chromosomes don't lie, kids. So with that being said, tonight's science update is for the uber nerds. We are going back to the journal articles, and tonight's journal article is one that I bumped into because I have been writing like a fiend, trying to get the hognose book done. I'm going to tell you one thing real quick, because this is a science update too. The Plains hognose snake species account for the hognose book. I am now at 31 pages single spaced with their natural history. I am trying to put as much in there as possible so that our hognose keepers can get a really good handle of what our snakes are doing out in the wild. And so in doing that, I kept coming across this paper that was talking about turtle eggs being eaten by hognose snakes. And I thought at first, it's called Iverson 1990, and this is it. And I thought it was a hognose snake paper. And so inevitably I got to a point where I was in what these guys eat, and really, no pun intended, digging deep into the turtle nest predation piece of hognose snakes. And I was like, okay, I've seen this reference a million times. I got to hunt this thing down. So I hunted it down. And John Iverson is a well-known turtle biologist. Turtles are his absolute, that's his first love. But he studies them in Nebraska, and where he studies them, there's an abundant hognose snake population. And so just by association, he has a lot of hognose literature in the primary lit. And so the title of this paper, immediately when I looked it up, I was like, okay, that's cool. The title, if you're driving in your car, is Nesting and Parental Care in the Mud Turtle, Kinosternon flavescens. So the yellow mud turtle, that's Kinosternon flavescens. And what was super cool about this paper, it's an oldie but a goodie, and I love these papers that are just fun, natural history. You learn a little bit about the biology of the turtle, is if we come down to the highlighted part. So if you're on YouTube, look away, because when people do this, it makes me want to vomit, and now I'm doing it, is this highlighted section. So what is super cool about this interaction with the hognose snakes and the yellow mud turtles is hognose snakes eat turtle eggs. And when you actually really start reading the literature on what wild plains western hognose eat, what you will quickly find out is that they eat toads, which everybody knows, but the western hog eats a lot of different things. It's not just a toad special. Eastern hogs, toads only for the most part. Western's different. And I'm not going to go too deep because I'll let the cat out of the bag on the book. But what's super cool about yellow mud turtles is yellow mud turtles live pretty much in the same kind of habitat that you find the hognose snakes in, the western hog specifically. And Iverson studies the turtles, and turtle biologists, one of the key things they are always interested in is nest predation. Because when a turtle lays in a nest, it's just out on the landscape, and they don't really do any form of parental care. And what is neat is if you're a herper, you know, raccoons eat turtle eggs, possums eat turtle eggs, coyotes eat turtle eggs, wild dogs will eat turtle eggs, lots of things eat turtle eggs. But hognose snakes, when they co-occur alongside turtles, are massive turtle nest predators. And so I highlighted a section here. And so what Iverson was doing is he was going out into the field. He had radio transmitters on these yellow mud turtles. He was tracking the mud turtles to their nests, and then he would dig up the nests, count the eggs. Well, he was shocked because he was digging up the nest, and there's a flipping yellow mud turtle female in there. She's not on the surface. She's down with the eggs. And he's found this multiple times. This is the only turtle, well, one of the only turtles known, there's another one in Asia that does this, that actually goes into the nest chamber underground and lays its eggs. All the other turtles are up on the surface. And so, good scientist, he asked the question, why? So I'm going to read something for the people in the car. I've got it highlighted for those on YouTube. It says, I have also observed predation of painted turtle nests by Heterodon nasicus, plains hognose snake, as long as several weeks after nest construction. These snakes are so numerous at the study site and so efficient at finding turtle nests that virtually all painted turtle nests are destroyed each year. So raccoons, we knew that did that. Freaking hognose snakes are so dependent on turtle eggs, and painted turtles aren't rare. This is a dirt common turtle. And 95% nest predation by a snake. So if you're keeping hogs, we really need to look at this. This is taking scientific literature straight into herpetoculture, because I don't know anybody that's like, I feed my hognose snakes eggs. Like, have you ever heard that before? This is a thing that I'm really big on. So if we go up here to this other section, though, he says, I excavated their formal burial site for the yellow mud turtles to check for eggs, and 3 times found hognose snakes coiled underground where the female had been twice, or burrowing into the soil where the female had emerged. In addition, at least half of the monitored clutches were presumably eaten by hognose snakes, because no other known predator leaves no sign of disturbance and no eggs or eggshell fragments. Nearly another third were eaten by mammals. These hognose snakes are literally pillaging the turtles, which is kind of insane to think about. But what's really cool is the next part. Whether the female turtle's presence actually distracts or discourages potential egg predators is not known, but it seems logical that the female would release her pungent musk to discourage predation by animals in the same manner she did when I disturbed her. Finally, it is not known if all population of yellow mud turtles exhibit this unique nesting behavior, but it may also occur in relic sandhill populations in eastern Iowa. And basically, in another part of the paper, he postulates this could quite literally be nest protective behavior, parental care by a turtle that is in response to a snake, which is the hognose snake. So I read this in this chair on Sunday and was just geeking out to hell and back. thinking about the coevolution between yellow mud turtles and hognose snakes. And then I thought about everybody that just loves hoggies because they're cute and they have a little top hat and a monocle, and it made me lose it. So let's think a little bit about the biology of these animals, because this is in defense of hognose snakes, which have been beaten up on this show a couple times in the recent present. If we think about the biology of these things, they're really, really freaking cool animals.
Yeah.
So take the monocle away, get rid of the top hat, the memes that we're talking about. In human care, we have domesticated them into stupidity. I'm sorry, I love my hognose snakes, but when they come roaring out of their tub with their little mouth open and they just want to bite something for food, that's a product of domestication. Let's respect the hognose snake and think about this coevolution and all the predation pressures they're putting on turtle populations. Drop the mic in defense of my hognose. That is your science update for this episode.
Coincidentally on this subject, one of our listeners came up to me while in Atlanta and brought this up about,
Really?
Us talking about them eating the turtle eggs, and something that was mentioned. I don't know what the logistics would be behind this or even the legalities in different states or whatnot, but he mentioned having a turtle breeding friend that ends up with way too many eggs every year. And I'm thinking, and that he had suggested this may be a potential, kind of fix. Like I said, I don't know what that would look like from a, kind of market standpoint, meaning how they're getting moved. But I guess at the very least, if you're listening to this and you breed a bunch of aquatic turtles and you do have an abundance of eggs, more so than what you actually want, you may have an outlet. And if you are a hognose breeder, who knows, turtle breeders, you may want to have a conversation because it sounds like, this is as natural of a diet as
turtles drop eggs. Turtles routinely drop infertile eggs. Mm-hmm. And what's nice so the fun thing about turtles is some turtles have a hard-shelled egg, some turtles have a soft, leathery egg. Our spotted turtles dropped a bunch of infertile eggs. Every one of them went in the freezer. We're now overrun with box turtles, and we have some of those that dropped a bunch of infertile eggs. Those are in the freezer. I'm trying to amass a bunch of eggs to do a controlled study at the school to look at, do you get the same growth rate with these adult turtles? And the other thing that's really cool about this is only the adults can eat the turtle eggs. So it's a forage type that's linked to a specific demographic, because the little babies or the juvenile hogs, they're just too small. They can't eat them. So I can't let this go. I find this fascinating. But when I read about the freaking parental care evolving in a turtle in response to a hognose snake, I was like, holy hell, this is cool. So
that's really neat.
And now you can take away with the market update.
All right. The market update is brought to you by the Show Me Reptile Show, Show Me Reptile Marketplace. As we all know, if it wasn't for Show Me, Mickey and his team, Colubrid Fest wouldn't exist. So if you've got a Show Me show anywhere near you, please head out, take a look, support those that support us. And by us, I mean those of us in the Colubrid community. Well, this is the first market update of the month, which means we will be doing some big numbers, and I'll mention a couple other things at the end here, but let's go ahead and lay it out. I guess I need to click on that. All right. So here's our graph. And for those who aren't watching and are listening, I promise I will talk you through it as well. Basically, we can see that we did follow the same trends. When we're looking back from January of 2 years ago, so January of 2024, we still had same peaks, same valleys, but there are a couple things I want to point out now. And what I was looking at is really the change from kind of December to February, anywhere January to February last year, and then this year. And basically what it is we had a downward incline in 2025, but in 2026, it was massive. There was a huge dip, meaning there was a large amount of, I'm going to say sold, which anyone can argue with me and say, well, listings pulled whatever, this large number of listings going away, there had to be an incredible amount of sales that went with it. And I'm going to go into a little bit more of that, with some of the other things we saw, but it was huge. And you can also see, if you're looking over here from January to February of 2026, you see ball pythons take a dip, but you see a much bigger dip in the total number of listings. So it wasn't just ball pythons moving it. And to give you some numbers on this, last year, January 2025, there were 38,365 ball pythons listed. This year February, not January, February. February this year, 30,781. So we're talking a 7,500, snake decrease in ball pythons listed. Total listings this year, 46,550. Last year, February, 53,823. So we've seen a massive, massive dip, from last year to this year, which is pretty incredible. Let's keep going here. Colubrid listings. Here we've got bull snakes, pine snakes. They peaked in November and have been on a steady downward decline. Then we've got corn snakes. Big peaks, big valleys. But look at this January to February drop. We're talking about almost a 500 corn snake drop in the period of a month in listings, whenever we saw just this slight decrease from November to January. Now, you remember on our last episode, if you recall what I said on what we're experiencing right now, this was a January unlike anything I would have predicted. I said that last month that January normally has a lull, and that is not what we were experiencing at a local level, show level, or national level, because online sales, show sales, and in-store sales were just incredible, running somewhere around about a 70, I think right now, 79% comp increase. It's insane.
Holy.
Yeah, and I've always said the thing is I don't like when I can't determine why, and I've got some ideas after some conversations, but even when it's good, I want to know why it's good. Okay, so garter snakes, still they're on their downward trend. We've got hognose. Look at this. Now, you remember, I was talking about being a little concerned that they were still going up, for a while when everything else was going down. They had a huge drop. So many less listings, there as well.
Huh.
House snakes, same thing, still down there real low. King snakes, following the same kind of trends, just a little bit of a dip from January to February. Really, everything is experiencing that, where you're seeing fewer listed in February than what was listed in January. There's milks, rat snakes, same thing, other colubrids, just a small dip. Breaking down market share, ball pythons still coming in at 66% of the market. Colubrids, 21%. Boas, 9%. All other pythons, 4%. The colubrid market share, hognose, 38%. Corn snakes, 26%. Those are still playing, they're over half the market, of colubrids right now, just those two. Yeah. You've got king snakes at 14, rat snakes at 8, pituophis at 7, milks at 4, all other colubrids 3%. Then you got house and garters coming in under 1% right now. To give some actual numbers here, and again, this is where I thought this is some neat stuff. So ball pythons, we're just going to go over the change from January to February. So ball pythons, 3,858 fewer listed in February than there was in January. And they actually picked up half a point in market share. The reason they picked up half a point is because of how much everything else dropped. Other pythons dropped 343. So it was a 0.1 point drop. Boas, 844 less listed in February than in January. That's a 0.6 point drop. Colubrids, 1,202 fewer listed in February as opposed to January. And that's actually, they picked up a little bit of market share. And again, that's because the others had fallen so much. But the bulk of that 1202 was going to be corn snakes and hognose snakes. And so I'm wondering if there were, now everything was moving to a degree, don't get me wrong, but I'm wondering if there was more auctions on those two particular species. And so if a lot more were sold there, I wonder if there were larger wholesale deals because of the time of year, something like that. So it was just incredible to see that many move in those two categories. Right now, as far as what's listed, Pituophis 624, corn snakes 2,518, garters only 30, hognose 3,715, house snakes 21, kings 1,396, milks 429, rat snakes 723, all others 276. So some current trends and patterns, things to point out here. Shows are remaining incredibly strong. You know, I obviously just told about the show that we had on the Southeast, but we also had a show in Bowling Green in which we had few animals in comparison, and they still did great out there. You know, they beat our minimum expectations, and I just can't say that enough, that shows, at least from our standpoint, are doing well. And I will mention in a minute, you know, kind of what I would suggest to ensure that they go well for you. January sales have been an anomaly, although it is certainly a nice one. That's not just us. I actually reached out to some others because I needed to find out where this was coming from and what it was coming from. There are others in that aren't even in the animal segment. They are, whether it's dry goods, things like that. And the response was, well, we're not experiencing your comp numbers, you know, when I'm talking to them about this, which I didn't expect them to, but they said, you know, we are definitely having a stronger January than normal. And throughout different conversations with others on this, one thing that was kind of, we came together on was, the reason it doesn't make sense is because everything that is out there right now in the media should have people nervous to spend money, right? And so that's why it didn't make a whole lot of sense. However, typically when people get nervous on, you know, when the consumer is having a little bit of friction, it's not that they don't spend their money. It's not even that they spend less money. Consumers still spend the same amount of money as they would have, but they do it in smaller chunks. So it's like they're not comfortable spending $5,000 on this car or on, you know, new entertainment system and all this. They're still going to spend $5,000, but it's 200 here, 300 there, 400,
Gotcha.
Because that way they still feel more secure because it's not all gone at the same time. It's sprinkled. And I'm seeing so much of that, and it makes complete sense whenever I think about like what the price points are. You know, for us, kind of the bread and butter has always been that $200 to maybe $500-$600 animal range. And that's really what has been moving very strongly. So that makes sense. That plays. As we said, hogs and corns had a massive sell down. That's great. That's great news to see it move like that. Because again, you know, you don't want to see it trend too high, too long. It'll make that market a little stale. So that's positive movement for everybody who's in those segments. We're 2 weeks out from tax season. As I said, normally we would be in a lull right now, and we would start seeing tax money trickle in over the next 10 days, but in 2 weeks is when it should hit the ground running. So be ready. I mean, it's not really slowed down in January, so I'm kind of itching to see what tax season is going to ramp up to, or if it's just going to keep riding the same kind of level that it has been. 30 and 60 day advice. As I said before, order show and shipping supplies now. Get them. I'm telling you guys, don't drag your feet. February will kick off tax spending and we'll run through April. So again, that's a big time. So, you know, we're in February right now. Get the stuff you need to be successful. Do all you can now to be ahead of the breeding and hatchling season. Book your travel to Colubrid Fest. That's
Please
all
do.
stuff that I had told you guys before. Here's a few new ones. Enjoy the strong January. Don't bet on it. What I mean by that is if January sales are good, that's great. Ride it, celebrate it. Hell yeah. Don't plan on it is what I'm getting at. Because if historically Januaries have been a softer month, next January, it's probably going to be a softer month. So in short, don't let yourself get too overheated on it and think that this is the new norm. I wouldn't make that bet yet. Make this your season of diversity. I cannot stress that enough. I strongly feel that the reason that Metazotics has successful shows, nearly every show we do, is because of the diversity we bring on the table. And it's not just, we have colubrids when the majority of the show is ball pythons. No, we're bringing geckos. We're bringing frogs. We're bringing different things. Rosy boas. I took 12 rosy boas to Atlanta. I came home with zero. And it's because that's an animal and a species that's not normally found in our area. It's not as popular. So that's what I would tell everyone this year is I'm not saying get out of your wheelhouse, but the more diversity you can put on your table, the more likely you are to succeed. Because if one species is missing that meaning one species is not hitting with the crowd that day, you better hope you have another species, so it's that kind of thought process. And that is what I have for the market update.
All righty. Okay.
We ready to bring out John?
Bring on?
Yeah. As always, our guest segment is brought to you by ReptiChip. You all know that we love ReptiChip. We use it here at Metazotics for really any of the animals needing humidity, our bamboos, our balls, our boas. Zach, I know you use it for incubation out there. So we love it. Great product. Give it a try. Welcome, John.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. We're pumped to have you here. Excited
to be here.
So I'm going to tell a story you don't know. So like many people, probably people that are watching, we saw kingsnake.com's going away. We all of us people that knew of it was like, oh, damn, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day we're like, it might be saved. And then later that day, it's saved, which then led to who saved it. And you were like Oz for about 2 weeks. It's like, who's the man behind the curtain? Like, who saved it? And then, it came out, this is the guy that saved it. And then I was like, who's that? And I subsequently met you at Pomona. I know you talked with Clint extensively. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say right off the rip, on behalf of CCR, we are thrilled to death. You were the guy that saved it. So know that.
That means a ton to me, man. Like it really does. Like, I had the same feelings that all of you guys had on those of.
Oh, you're still on. We don't know why. We can hear you, buddy.
Go ahead and talk, John. We'll get you up there.
I don't know where to go with that one. I completely lost it. I ran into the same thing that you guys did with it, finding that like, oh no, it's going to close. Like there's too much knowledge there. There is too much of my youth, my coming up in the reptile industry or like the hobby, the community, any of those that was frankly founded there. Right. That it just, So, yep. It was, and that was one, like you mentioned about like kind of who was it behind the curtain, any of those different ones. That was something I thought about, man. I really kind of didn't want to be public and in the eye and a bunch of those. And like, I thought hard about that. Can I hide? No, that would have been like a really, really short-term thing of like, a couple of months, maybe. And then people are going to know and shit, you're out there anyway. And so, yeah.
Well, let's start then. Who is John? So like what's your background? What's your history in this? Just take us from the beginning, because I think that's one of the things a lot of our listeners are going to want to know is who is the guy that is now King Snake?
Yeah. Well, I mean, King Snake, I'd like us to think about it as for like the community and as for all of us. But yeah, I get your point. Sorry. Well, I mean, I would like to think like you guys, I was born as a small human on Earth, right? Do we want to go that far back, or maybe?
Yeah, okay.
How do you get into reptiles? Just where did it all come from?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reptile side of it came from when I was a kid, catching garter snakes and stuff out in the yard and setting up a little tank for them and stuff with dirt and plants and things from out there, figuring out what to get them to eat, be it like little pinkies from the store or fish. Was far more successful on any of that. But yeah, started there really. I don't know where within that one too. My cousin definitely deserves some credit there. He had a big old, it had to have been a true like BCC, like red tail boa. I mean, that thing was solid, 10 foot long, big, right? And like good animal. And he was inspirational in a lot of ways because of, he had gorgeous enclosures and that he had built for that. He had a tarantula and such as well. I believe like a curly hair. And so there's some of those pieces that fit into that as well. Going to like the pet store and stuff as a kid, we had a cool independent one that was local. And so not only like the fish department, which was great, spent a lot of time in that as well. The reptiles though, especially, and there's cool people that worked there, you know, and like worked with me as a kid and like, oh, here, you want to hold this red tail boa? You want to check this one out? And so a whole bunch of those places that it all kind of comes from, right? Which then that leads into eventually there was a reptile store around locally. They were brilliant. It threw like big old full page ad in Reptiles magazine, which of course most of us remember and we're reading, right? Just soaking up all the knowledge that we could. You mentioned rosy boas, Clint. That was the first snake that I got after, you know, kind of proving like, oh, hey, you didn't kill these garter snakes and stuff. Put them back in the yard. I am tired of them musking in the house. Right. And so, so that was kind of the first one there. And so great snakes. More people should have those. Started with that one, ended up working at that same local pet store. That was a great experience too. That puts you far more into a bunch of those. You get to learn a whole lot more experience. Is where I got like one of my first pairs of boas that I ended up pairing. They bred, got some babies out of that. Kind of jumping around. So pulling back and you want to. That led into like some venomous stuff. Did a couple of those. That was probably short-lived, I guess, except beatids and Gilas. Now you count those, but did those for a little bit, not real long. Really enjoyed the boas more. Went down with some friends to Arizona a couple of times looking for rattlesnakes and Gila monsters, of course. Yeah. Never found a Gila down there. Wanted to. Did that. Still working at pet stores, different things. I was actually on track to be a veterinarian and wanted to specialize in exotics and such. Life took a different path and ended up working for like big tech for a while. So like working for a couple of those big companies for a bit, which helping stuff do e-commerce, right? Fast forward a little bit further, left corporate life and those different things, just multitude of reasons behind that, right? Kind of nice to be free. Left that one and then kind of ended up in that place here where king snakes, well, okay, let me figure out where a couple of those line in, because then there's this part of like my wife and I, we didn't really have reptiles. I still had a couple of snakes, one of my Hog Island boas and that rosy boa when we first got together. She's not a fan of reptiles. Like just, no, I mean, funny story when with one of our beatids, when she first found one of those like sleeping on its back, she calls me. Still gets you every time.
It does. It really does.
Yeah. And so she calls kind of crying like, I think I care about them more than I thought. Is it okay? You know?
Nice.
But we'd had a couple of animals kind of throughout and stuff. And then when we were leaving corporate life, like we were really discussing the thing of, should we open a pet store down here? And there's a hole in this kind of area where we are. We really thought about that, but ultimately decided, no. And this was around the same time that we were still going to all the expos, like, And she had said, you know what, if you came home with a green tree python again, like that would probably be okay. And yeah, I went completely off the rails and came home with a beaded lizard instead. And so
that's a good choice. I've got 2 of them right over there.
I have multiple throughout here as well, my friend.
Yeah, there you
go. Which was something that, you know, I appreciate her support very much on that, right? Like, hey, can I bring a venomous lizard home? I realize that you hate reptiles. So, but she knew that that was something that I dreamed about since I was probably 10 years old, right? Catching garter snakes and stuff, like wherever that time frame lines up of reading on king snake and such about reptiles, reading about Gila monsters as much as I can through all of that, and just thinking about what those would look like. Obviously had nowhere near the money for them at that point. I don't know that I do now either, but you know, so yeah, somewhere through there, we kind of made that decision, ended up with the beaded, and having that discussion about the pet store, and determined, you know what? No, you've wanted to work with beaded lizards and Gila monsters, you know, Heloderma forever. Do that instead. Let's just focus down that path. And so we started down that path, which then kind of led to one of, well, I can't find the enclosures that I want. So I guess I'm building that stuff, ended up kind of sourcing like PVC and such, realized like in this local area, there's a hole. I guess we're kind of doing that. Might as well supply this to the community because I can do it at a very reasonable price for them. And then that kind of led into like, oh, hey, king snake's about to close. What's going on there? As my wife tells this story, I told her, I was like, I think I need to reach out to this guy and see if we can do this, see what would happen. I think, you know, kind of a lot of my history and stuff through this. I think I kind of know what we could do and how we could get it where it needs to be for the community and that. And as she tells this story, you know, she was like, oh yeah, sure. Cool. I kind of don't expect that to happen. So fine, check it out. And yeah, really. And then that even in of itself is kind of a little bit of a funny story of like how that one worked, where talking to Jeff, kind of getting distracted, trying to get ready for an expo. And then right before it was closing, trying to get a hold of him almost feverishly. Is that the right word? Like, hey man, I'm serious. I would like to talk to you about this. Like, I think can we talk? Right. And so that really did happen in the 11th hour, like literally at 1:00 my time, the day it was going to close. He got back to me and was like, oh yeah, hey, we can talk. And so, yeah, kind of fascinating how all that one worked out.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So we're now, I think we're about to kind of get into king snake specifically. So before we do that, you know, whenever we get to the meat of our guest topic, that of course is going to be brought to you by ZooMed. Max, you want to go ahead and run ZooMed for us?
CCR is proud to be sponsored by ZooMed Laboratories.
ZooMed has been servicing the reptile industry since 1977. And in 1993, they introduced us to the Repticide, the very first UVB bulb specifically for reptiles.
In addition to boasting a 1,200-item product line, ZooMed also has an extensive reptile breeding program, with many species being kept at their incredible greenhouse facility located in California.
Thank you, ZooMed, for supporting Colubrid and Colubrid Radio.
All right.
Man, I remember those bulbs. I remember when those bulbs came out, they were a game changer.
Yeah. I remember the first one that I bought being like, how is this any different from any other light bulb in my ignorant 20-year-old brain? It's like, and now I teach all these things that are completely different about that light bulb. So anyway, so I have a quick question. So one of the things that Clint and I talk about a lot, and we as partners in crime take great pride in being able to make calculated risks. We throw ourselves off cliffs and we're falling, but we know we will somehow survive the landing. And I feel like we got a kindred spirit here today because essentially you kind of threw yourself off a cliff to save snake.com.
100%.
So I want to know, like, was this with making the decision to do this, was this like a logic driven decision? Was this just a gut check? And you're like, you know what? My wisdom and experience at this point can make it so I can make this happen. Was this just I feel it, therefore I should make it? Like, just, I want to know a little bit more about the details of like that 48-hour period before you pull the trigger and it's yours now.
Yeah. And so in fairness on that part too, then I had some of the like business side of it beforehand.
Sure.
And so seeing some of those things, that it was one of like, well, that's when you look at like all of the things that I don't know how to answer the question, I guess. Like, you've set my mind on like so many different pieces of this, right? Because it was both, right? Like, there was that piece of, all right, can we make this work? Can we bring this back? Can we do these things in like a reasonable enough way for the community where, you know, at least it'll pay for itself and we can keep something great for the community. One of the big ones for me was just the loss of information.
Yes.
There's so much foundational information there that it would be a travesty to lose the way that we've lost several of the other ones. I mean, even the way that we've lost like Facebook groups and such that have all kinds of information, photos and things like that get pulled down. I think that was one of the biggest things that I looked at, is like the community, we kind of need this. And when I looked further into it and looking at the fact that with it being its own servers, its own stuff, like, we are not running on Microsoft. We're not running on Amazon's cloud. We are not running on Shopify or any of these different platforms this way, which what that means is that we can have free speech and unfiltered discussions about things. Whereas like, even like I presume on this one with YouTube, right? Like, we got to be a little bit careful about what's said, because they can be upset about those things, which this, I think, sets unrealistic expectations for people getting into the hobby. If you go in to look at like breeding something and you have this expectation of like, oh, I take this beautiful animal and I put it with this beautiful animal, and then beautiful animals come out. No, animals get egg bound and have problems. Animals just being born are going to have deformities or different things here. That is just the part of nature in the world, and that happens. Some of them are going to pass, you know, just because that's how it goes, right? And that if we can't discuss those things, we're doing a disservice to the hobby. So those were kind of some of the main things that I guess I looked at, is really, is just, this is something that the community needs. When I stacked that on top of the thing that like Facebook has and these platforms that have, you know, like largely, that was a big place we were selling animals before, right? Where that we would connect and do that. And that's been shut down in a very, very hard way. And so the community, we need multiple options. We should not go back to selling on Craigslist again. Let's maybe not do that, right? But that if we, as I thought that one through and thought about like, you know, really what else is available. So if it's Morph Market and your own website, we need something else. Building your own website is easier nowadays. Getting traffic to it is hard. And so if we have a couple of places in the community that are those accepted central hubs of the community, which King Snake was, right? Like, those of us been in the industry longer than like 5-7 years, we pretty much know about it. If you've been in 7 or 5 years, which is a long friggin' time, you may not know as much. But that so we need that other option, because then if you as a breeder are available on King Snake, on Morph Market, on your own website, then as a customer goes and looks, they see, hey, look, there's Metazotics here. I feel good about that. Their stuff looks real nice. Here they are over here as well. They look the same. It's a consistent experience. Oh, here's their website too that I wouldn't have found. And, you know, all right, I feel super comfortable to give this person several $100 or $1,000+ of my hard-earned money for an animal that I can't see, because that I don't live where you are, right? And so we kind of need these things for the community to add legitimacy and trust and all of these kind of throughout. And so those were several of the things that were going through my mind on that. Does that help at all?
Yeah, no, that helps a lot.
Yeah. You know, there was certainly, when we talk about king snake and talk about the history, I really don't think that there's, you know, to your point, if someone has been in the hobby, you know, that 5 to 7, even 10 years, I don't know if they fully grasp the amount of knowledge that is still hanging there in kingsnake.com. For example, if you start deep diving into some more colubrid morphs, more so than ball pythons, you know, I'll say that, because morph market was made for ball pythons, and then the others, you know, it expanded into. King snake was not. You know, king snake was made prior to the ball python boom, and then, you know, rode along with it. So if you are looking for Florida king, or it would say Brooks king back then when you're searching for it, if you are looking for information on those mutations and those morphs, if you Google it right now, there are many of those morphs that it's going to direct you to King Snake Forum, because that's where the information is. That's where you can find, I mean, still, because there will be times I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is this? This is a species that I've not worked deep into the morphs with, and I need to figure out what it is I'm looking at, what I'm producing, you know, what are the trade name? Okay, now I need to deduce from the trade name, what are the, is it an exantic, what, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that's where it ends up taking me a lot of times, or the forums on king snakes. So there's still such a wealth of knowledge, you know, there. It's amazing. And you can see the progression of when something was first thought of and then what it ended up being. I mean, so it's really incredible to think about what's sitting there, you know, in those archives.
You're exactly right. I mean, and that's the thing, like, it's crazy when you think about it, right? It was started in 1997. I mean, technically a little bit before that, but really in 97. And it had been started by a couple of guys that were looking for gray banded king snakes, and were trying to figure out how to, incredible. And that we're trying to figure out how to find them, where were the good spots, how to breed them, how to keep them, how to, like, all of those different things. And then the way that it exploded beyond that to a full-blown forum system where there's kind of all of them. I mean, it's still core memories for me to thinking about, like, Yasser and Nick Mutton yelling at each other about scrub pythons and Marilia and, like, all these different pieces of it. And the reason that people are captive breeding scrub pythons now far more easily is because of those guys and this platform being able to discuss and share that info all the way back then. And so you're right. There's so much there that is foundational.
Yep. What was super cool for me is when I was writing the False Water Cobra book, I was trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to get history on an obscure snake that currently has a following, a niche following, but back then, the reputation of them is not what it was today. And so I can't remember. I think it was the Rear Fanged forum. There was some forum I went to, and this was in 2021. And I just typed in, you know, False Water Cobra, and I'm reading about the snake that I think I know a lot about. And I'm reading, like, I just got these imported from Argentina. Argentina's closed. We're not getting anything from Argentina, you know. And it's like, these things lived about 3 months and died. And then there's this, like, there were these 4 guys that were just, that was their whole point of existence, was buying up every single imported false water cobra and then they would just talk it out. And I was able to take that information and put little nuggets of it but just for those of us who love to nerd out, seeing the trials and the tribulations of those who came before us, like, today, there are no wild-caught false water cobras in the U.S. There could be some founder stock. They're like 20, 30 years old. If you're buying one that's little, it's illegal. Like, all of the countries that they come out of, they're CITES 1. You've got that issue too. So it's not really happening anytime soon. But quite literally, like, today we take for granted, you can go back and see, like, there was a guy who was he wrote something about how he was driving. Now, don't do this, guys. This is not legal. He was driving around, grabbing every frog he could find. And then he was doing feeding trials with different frogs because the other guy found out that you can't keep them alive on mice when they're from the wild. You got to give them amphibians. But then they didn't know what and like, as a person who does the history of herpetoculture, kingsnake.com is priceless because when it came in 97, it was that like magic time. It was essentially the Renaissance. Like it was when we had just figured out how to breed these things, but we weren't anywhere near where we are today. And that's all captured. Like there's a total chronology there. And it's hognose snakes. Back then, hognose snakes weren't what they were today. I've been on there. I've been lurking there. And people were talking about feed them toads. Who the hell does that now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just super cool to see that and the debates and everything.
The crazy thing too is it wasn't just the learning of the breeding and it wasn't just the herpetoculture side. There was a market piece that because again, I grew up the same way. It started in 97. I graduated in 2000. And so was still young, like green to a lot of things on, the business side of everything. But I can tell you king snakes where I started cutting my teeth, on this. And it was some things that I was on king snake every single day, and it was scrolling through one because I wanted to see what was new on the market. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just like, some new morph. It was sometimes just, I'd never seen this species available before, this is where you went. And so I was on it every day, multiple times a day, honestly. So that was the first piece that it kind of taught me how to pay attention to stay in tune on what's coming, when things hit. And so that was one. Number two, I started paying attention to pricing and, so I could get a feel and it would, then I knew how to start pricing my animals or making comparisons on if I've got this, the closest thing to that would probably be this. And so this is the range it should fall in. And little variables that would either tweak my number up or tweak it down, things like that. But it also started having me where I started to ask myself questions on how I would feel. Okay, Zach, you've heard me say before, I put colubrids in deli cups, not in display cases. It's because of the colubrid keeper's mindset. If you have them in display cases, then you probably are charging more for them. And it's just it's just consumer mindset. So my mindset used to be the same. If you remember, and it may still be this way, so forgive me, John, but how on the classifieds, people could pay extra to have theirs like highlighted this other color. I avoided those. Ads. And the whole reason was because my mindset was, if you're paying extra to have that, you're probably charging a little extra. And so I always wanted to go for those more private breeders, right? And it's funny because what I was avoiding back then is what I am now, being on, the larger, it's, again, mine is different because, again, my prices still are breeder prices, but that was my mindset. But it made me start thinking in that direction for whenever I was putting things on the table. Or so there was a whole lesson in marketing and in that mindset of it having a business tie-in that even at 18, 19, 20 years old, it's where I was starting to learn it in this industry. I had my outside work that was teaching me business in a completely different way, but how it correlated in this industry, kingsnake.com is where I was learning it in the beginning, for sure.
Well, and it's funny you bring that up too. I mean, like all the different sides, right? As you guys are both talking about it, my mind went to the expo and business side of it as well, where I could click on my state and see what expos were coming up in my state. That was the way I learned about them, man. But like to your point too, it's fascinating the intangible things that we learned there and did that. Like as you're talking about this, I used it when I was pricing animals at the pet store. I used it to see what to order and stuff, because that I would see on there, like, what's the cool stuff people are talking about. I also absolutely loved your point of like the random things that you would see in there. You'd see stuff you weren't gonna see it. You weren't gonna see it anywhere else. And so, it's to bring that one full circle, like East Bay Vivarium. They're one that I remembered a ton on there back, because they'd show up with all kinds of weird stuff. It's fascinating to then meet those guys in person now at the show and stuff and be on that other side. It's just, we're happy you guys are back. Look, man, you guys were inspiration. You guys taught me a ton. All of what I saw there, right? So,
absolutely. Cool. And I think about it. Sorry, I mean, because I'm completely going on memory lane, here with this. But when I say I was on it every day, I even on times I shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? I was on it. And I remember once I was general manager of a location and for the company I was with forever. And we had a dead day. There weren't any patients in the store. And so I'm on this side computer away from everybody. And I'm scrolling King Snake, of course, seeing if there's anything I want. And one of the associates comes up and asks me a question. And I answer the question and I say something like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to work on some schedules over here." And he kind of snickered and gave me a head nod. And like an idiot, I forgot there's a full-size mirror right next to me on a wall where he can see everything I'm doing on this computer. And he sees all the snakes, you know what I mean? Where King Snake's pulled up. And he goes, "I can see snakes." And I go, "Hey." He caught me. What can I say?
No, I remember the same. I remember getting in trouble at the library at school using it. The same thing. I'd just be in there in the library on King Snake. And that most of the time you'd kind of get, I'm a biology major, leave me alone. I'm researching, right? And so every once in a while, though, there's a payment sign on there. Look, I'm still researching. Do you know about this species?
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
It's such good stuff.
And that's, I mean, bringing it back to it, all of those reasons are why we still need this in the community. All of these absolutely. Are the things that I looked at with that of like, why should we keep this? And I think it's that thing too of like, it's the right time as well, where there are some incredible people, that foundational people that are willing and want to contribute to the site as well and help continue their legacy that much further. And so, like, again, these are the things that are important to it and why we're doing this.
Oh, I completely agree. Looks like we may have lost Zac temporarily. I think he's there. He is. He's back.
Welcome back.
All good.
Good deal. Well, before we move into King Snake present, Zac, is there anything else that you want to mention about?
The only other thing, which I mentioned on the Phil Peak episode, is I represent more the nerdy side, and the Field Herper Forum was where the field people went.
Yes.
And I, to this day, remember where I was because I was following Phil and Will and their whole, all their Kentucky field posts were great because they would take awesome pictures and we would and they would be, I like the field stuff. So it was just, Phil would write it like it was more of a magazine article than just a post of what he had found. And I was sitting in the computer lab at Florida Tech in Melbourne, Florida, when they had found the first Kentucky pine. And I can still see that snake on that computer monitor. I know I was sitting next to the wall on the right side of the computer lab because I was so jazzed for them. And now I have 6 of them. So, it's like that was the genesis that's led to that point. So I just want to say before we go to the present, if you're a young person, for the love of God, please, I hope we are making you curious. So go there and look at those forums because it's a pretty important part of herpetocultural history. So
absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, cool. So Go for it, John.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess then our next thing is like the kind of present. Can we maybe intertwine that a little bit with future, probably what'll happen?
Yeah.
So, so at present, I mean, the site still looks like it's like peak 2005. Let's call it what it is. So,
which is great.
And that's part of where I think maybe, without not throwing shade at any previous owner, anybody, but that was part of where I think King Snake went wrong. Was it didn't continue to adapt. It didn't continue to roll with changing times. And, it's eventually like anything else. I mean, if you don't, then Netflix comes along to Blockbuster,
Yep. And maybe, somebody anyway. So to that point, you're exactly right. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think, quite frankly, anyway. So currently then, right now, we've released a new mobile version, at least for the classifieds, to start that and get that process going, because that's really what we need. The mobile side of it is not friendly at all. And so it's kind of nice that you can still go through the forums and all the different stuff on mobile and it kind of scales nice to zoom in and all the different pieces, but it's still not that friendly. So that'll come in the future. We determined we would start with the classifieds first, kind of back to that piece of we need somewhere to connect and offer animals and be able to discuss and kind of figure that out without being shut down and losing our accounts or different things. So we started with that piece of it. We are working on I don't know where to go, right? Because that will obviously expand beyond there. We're working on some of that now of like, are the forums next? Probably, right? Like it's probably one of the best pieces to go. At the same time, though, the expo, the business side, and those I think are super, super important. And so that's one that we need to do as well, because that's one of the easy ways to learn of what's up and around, who are the good shops that are around, and those, which that's something that we're changing and kind of expanding upon. So within that piece, right, it used to cost money to list the expos. I don't think that's really appropriate. I think that's kind of, okay, let me pause one second too. I've kind of come up with two things that are guiding us through this. Number one is that King Snake is for everybody. And I think about this a lot because that's really broad, and I mean it to be, because that's an important piece of it, is it is for all of us. And in one of those ways that it's for all of us is with both sides. Like Zach, you talked about, like, you like the nerd side and to go really deep in it. Yes. Thank you. And so we also need the others. And so that's a side where do we really have to discuss? And so I think that's something that's very, very important to me with King Snake, and very, very high on the list of things that we need to do. To that side as well, though, we need to show that kind of introduction side of things as well, because that being for everybody, you're going to come in and want to learn the little bits of things. And, oh, hey, now I want to go to the, 400 level, the doctorate level, the PhD, whichever one, as deep as I can go onto this and find as much as I can. So how we want to take care of both. And so we have a guy, Don Kane, who's going to run more of like that scientific side for us. Cool. Where kind of exactly that, working with people to help bring different articles, bring more knowledge in that here for that side of it. I mean, quite frankly, like what you do, where you take the scientific article and then kind of distill it down of like, here's a couple easy key points and an easy way to understand it. That's kind of exactly what we're working towards as well.
That's because
awesome. Like what you do, man, it's great for the community, right? Here's an introduction. Some of that stuff is dense and difficult to read. And so here's a quick intro where you can get started. And if you want to go deeper, there's the article. Get after it. So that's one that I think is really key through that whole piece of being for all of it. Along those same lines, we're working on kind of like an introductory piece for ideally everything, right? We're close to being done with this for the retics right now, where you could show the different localities of it. Here's kind of an example of what those are, kind of brief little info on it. Here's then the different morphs, the same thing. Here's kind of good examples of what some of those are, and some of these. We see that kind of being able to live like a couple of different places on the site, because if you pop into we'll just stick on retics for the moment, but if you pop into like that forum, here's kind of that quick basic bit of info. If you go into the classifieds, kind of the same thing. Here's that quick bit of info. I should have been talking about colubrids. That would have been way better. There are so many other localities. But kind of building towards that, right? Same thing. This will make us all smarter. So that's one of them. And so that's the other one. Number one is that King Snake is for everybody. Number two is that King Snake makes us smarter. Obviously, that leads into the science side, all these different things. We can kind of see how this relates, right? And kind of as I alluded to earlier as well about as little censorship as possible. I think this really leads into that making us smarter side. Okay, so let me pause there for a minute. You guys ask me questions or go somewhere. And then if you don't have something, I'll run my mouth some more.
Okay. Run your mouth some more.
Yeah. It's Wheel up here. I mean, we'll have a question.
You're the guest.
We'll do that whenever you don't have something to say.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of those things through that one. So I guess then along those lines of making us smarter, being for everyone, benefiting the community, right? That's where for the expos, we're not going to charge for that. We're working on that now to get all of those listed. We're close to having a bunch of that together so that we can get all this up on the site and support and show all these different ones so people are aware, and it's simple. Along the same lines of that, then one of the other resources that we need is exotic veterinarians.
Very cool.
Yes.
Since the site is already built for the local pieces, right? You can click on Washington, Indiana, Arizona, whatever that this may be, and see what businesses are around, what expos are around. Well, we need to do exotic veterinarians as well.
I like it.
And this is another one where it seems inappropriate to charge for that. And so this is a service that we want to just add to the community and are just going to put in there and make that available so that now as you're getting an animal, or if you have an emergency or any of those, here's a very easy place, still King Snake. You just go click on your state, who's available. These guys are close, little further that we can build that one out. But I'm super, super excited about that part.
I like that. Now, we had talked a little bit, and you'd mentioned wanting to do more with like conservation groups and nonprofits and things. Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure. That's one where we're, look, I don't have big money. I wish I did, right? At this point, at this point, King Snake, we don't make money. We're working on it. We're trying to get to some of those things. And so this is one where we're figuring out what our sponsorships look like in that. Mm-hmm. However, we think this is an important one through the community in that. And so, if I can mention it specifically, like the IHS, they're ones that we very, very much want to sponsor, partner with, work with, and help support all the incredible things that the IHS does. Just the simple fact that you all work with grants and stuff to further scientific research and are doing legitimate research. Like, this is exactly the side of King Snake makes us smarter. It would be foolish for us not to be investing in this and be part of this. And so we're very excited about discussions that we have going with IHS and to kind of work down that one further. And
fantastic.
Very, very cool.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we've got about 20 more minutes. This is what people ask me all the time. And if you had all the money in the world, where would this go? So obviously we don't have all the money in the world, but kind of a guidelines up, but still thinking big, because you got to think big. Where's King Snake going?
1 year, 5 year, 10 year, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If things go well, by your definition of well, where would the platform go?
I guess to look at it is like, so we're kind of talking about like, what's the measure of success? How do we get there? What are some of those things that it looks like then at the end? And so I think the big one for that is it's a little bit intangible and difficult, right? Because it's about being that hub for the community, having a positive impact in the community and benefiting the community. That and there's a lot of ways that happens, right? And so so that's probably one of the biggest ones, is how do we do that and how do we provide that for the community? When I think about what does some of that look like, it's the discussions in the forums. It's people talking about things, sharing knowledge. It's the desire from the brilliant people in the community to want to contribute to the site, to want to have their scientific articles published, to want to publish the brilliant things that they've learned there. It's an easy to use site that all of us are kind of back to that point of, I like being here. It feels good. It's, I see it too as kind of being that, how do you put it? Like that place where you can go to get away from all the noise. There's so many terrible things happening right now that you can go anywhere and just be bombarded with it. And that's kind of one of the things I think I always loved about King Snake is that, sure, there's ads there, but they are for reptiles. It is still reptile and amphibian related stuff. And like, I get to kind of get away from it and fall into the passion that I have and the things that I enjoy. And that's, I think, one of the other ones that I don't know that this would ever be attributed to us, but kind of as you guys were discussing about like in the market and stuff and seeing some of these shifts, like it's cool to see the increase in colubrids, in hognose, and that just up year on year, which kind of goes to what I've been seeing the last 6 to 12 months from people is, hey, I'm stepping away from like these things that everybody's doing and chasing this genetic, whatever. And instead I have this like super cool thing that I'm insanely passionate about that like nobody really cares about, but I really love these animals and I'm going to produce some really cool stuff with them because I've dreamed about this forever. And that's something that I'm super excited to see continue and change throughout the hobby. And I hope that King Snake can be part of that by providing that spot for people to go discuss and nerd out on it. I mean, like exactly you were talking about with the false rotter cobras, right? It's like 4 or 5 guys just super into it, just sharing everything they could. And here we are literally 20 years later, still talking about it, or you used it to write the book to help teach people now about it. Like it's, that is success. That's where we're going. And figuring out how we do that for the community. And so I'll add one other piece and then I'm gonna pause and let you ask other questions or say what you got. But part of that too, then is going to be feedback from the community. Like I've loved being at these recent expos at the Reptile Super Show and at Pac Northwest and so many people coming up and like, oh my God, I remember when, hey, did you think about this? Hey, we could do these things that would help. The community needs this. Thank you. Like, Jeff Galewood from JMG, he told me about art and about how that we need a place to be able to sell reptile related art. There are incredible artists in the community. And many of us would love to adorn our walls and reptile rooms with their incredible works. Right. And so he put us on that one. We have a art classified section that is now available in the classifieds. Right. So we can't always be that fast with things, but this is the kind of stuff of like, just, we want to do right by the community.
I love hearing that. I literally have 6 pieces of art sitting right on the other side of this room from Adeline I just bought in Atlanta. And we're working with Donovan right now on logo work for our conservation fund. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. Some dynamite artists out there that, love seeing them get some love. One of the things one of my favorite classified sections was the wanted section.
Yeah.
Where instead of you just going and looking for what you could put out what you wanted or see what other people were looking for, and you know what? I got one of those that I could probably go ahead and let go, and just so it was definitely, that I love that level of communication, when it brings it down to that. So that's really cool. I'm really like hearing that.
So we have go ahead. Keep going.
Well, then what are your thoughts on this one too? Because one of the other things I want to do is build or I guess this is in process. We're close, is having a B2B section. So thinking about this on like a couple of different ways, right? Where you as like a store owner, you're looking to buy wholesale and purchase this way, right? There are breeders out there. You're going to you're going to have holdbacks. Let's be real. You've got your holdbacks. You got a couple of gorgeous animals that'll sell real quick. And then you've got a couple others that are maybe less visually appealing or are hets that you don't want to get out or any of these different things, and that you would wholesale them. But if you post that publicly to everybody, you kind of trash the market a little bit, right? Yeah. And so we have a section where anybody will be able to post to it, right? Because that's kind of the whole point. But only legitimate retail stores or somebody that like you as the breeder have blessed into the program would be able to see those offers. This way, you as a store can go find those, see that, make these different connections. You as the breeder can find those stores without having to go call a whole bunch of them, right? So
I love that. We actually, so this isn't like that, but the closest thing that we even have is there's like a group message that I have with, I think it's like 4 other reptile shop owners in various parts of the country. And we help each other out where, you know, it's none of us are in competition with each other. None of us overlap. But what we'll do is, you know, when it comes to animals, one of the pet shop owners is fantastic at gecko species, you know, producing them and Australian species. I don't do any of that. They don't do any colubrids. Hey, so it's, you know, we swap boxes basically and to help cover each other. But it's also, from what you're saying right there, that I would absolutely love is we have, each of us have like inline product that we have. So it's not even just animals. It's, for example, we have our own thermostats where at the right quantity, you know, I able to wholesale those to other stores and they carry Metazotics line product and same thing where I get product from them and that. So, I mean, that kind of setup, what's great about that is it helps small businesses. Yes. It helps small businesses help each other instead of only relying on, you know, the large corporation. Not that we're dogging anybody else, you know, obviously, because we love the product that we get from everybody. It's just great to have where everyone has that opportunity, you know, to play in sandbox, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's the connections in that we need. And like, I mean, I even see this one of like, when we were getting our shirts, it was difficult to find somebody that we liked, but we ended up finding somebody that is in the community, in the reptile community and they did a phenomenal job for us. So, you know, yeah, it's all these kind of connections that, again, if we can do the right, like this is the part of it, right? Make us smarter. It's for everyone. We're helping the community, like consistency.
So one issue is we're all older. I live in a sea of Gen Z. That is where I dwell.
Yep.
And, you know, that's why I made the plea, go to kingsnake.com and look at the old sites. But a lot of them live and die by this little black box we keep in our pocket. Is there any direction towards, and as your Jewel in the chat asked the question, is there an app? Is there not an app? Are we going to go, is there an app in the future? What do you see on that front?
Yep. So to that front, this is exactly why we started with the mobile friendly classifieds, so that we can get down that path of being mobile friendly, because you're right. There are a ton of people that only use the device in their pocket. And so we are working towards that. Excuse me, sir.
That's okay.
When it comes to an app, I'm unsure of how that one will pan out. Part of that becomes a thing of like the censorship, that in going through any of these, right now we're beholden to Apple or whoever else based on whatever their terms of service and different things are there. I do think that we have a solution to make this still easy for everybody, even one that works like short term, to make that simpler. So you can just go on your home screen, click on King Snake, open it up and be right there. So we intend to release kind of like a hacky version of that, at least in the short term. And so we'll release kind of a simple, like, hey, here's a couple of quick step-by-step and you can add this to your home screen and boom, bam, there you are.
And I've got another question that, and this is not in any way to seem like a gotcha question, because it's not. It's just trying to think of like how do you recommend we get people to go there, because people are so, like, I used to go on the Morph Market through my Chrome browser, and I did that forever. And then one day I remember I was laying in bed and I was like, I wonder if there's a Morph Market app. And I went to my Play Store and I typed in Morph, and boom, there's an app. I was like, okay. And now I click the app and I can,
Yep.
And I want people here. I want people at King Snake. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Thank
so
you.
how do you recommend, or what can we do, especially those of us who remember it and have nothing but good feels?
Yeah.
How do we get younger people there to
Yeah.
get away from, nothing against the Facebook group, but you are correct. You can get booted. And sometimes, obviously there are some messages or conversations where, like, come on, this is going a direction we don't want it to go. But at the same time, I've seen those go this way and then they kind of come back to center. And seeing that process, you could argue, is something the world needs right now. So anyway, but
yeah,
long-winded question. How do you want us to get people there?
First off, thank you. I very much appreciate the support and your desire to want people to be there. Like, it means a ton, And so I think from that, it's kind of this, like, I think it is kind of grassroots, right? And I think that means kind of like a two different fold. One is reminding people, hey, look, yeah, it is a very retro site at this point, but enjoy some of the nostalgia of the forums and such there. We're going to keep that. Ideally, I'm going to keep it as just kind of a switch. So, like, you want to go back in time, here you go. You can kind of experience it as it's been, or here's the new one for the black box. I'm getting off topic though. So coming back to that, I think it's reminding people that, hey, we're back, we're working on it. And I think one of the ones is posting to the classifieds as well, because that is a big part of what everybody wants and needs, is they're looking for animals. And so I think the more that we do that brings people here. I think that it's that, and we need to get the forums squared away so that people can start using that a little more easily as well. If we're being frank with it, it is cumbersome to go click on the one and then have to click on the next message in some of these. And I don't really appreciate this. And that's been a little bit of a discussion of, like, well, do we go fix that, or do we just fix it in the new version? And I'm more on the side of prioritize, fix the new version. Right. So,
sure.
So I think it's that, spread the word, remind people, if you find some crazy thing in there, post it, send people back. Right. Start a discussion. Right. Like, I think that's one of the ones that I'd really like to see on some of this is I've had a couple of people hit me up kind of arguing about different things and, like, wanting me to pick sides or different stuff. No, absolutely not. I'm not going to pick sides on any of this. It's not important what I think on those. I'd like to see you guys go discuss it on the forums, where you can express both sides of that freely. If you call names, we'll probably censor that part depending on what it is. But outside of that, we're not going to take the whole post down, any of those different things. And so that's really what I want to see, is if we can get a couple of, like, real discussions about stuff, that's what needs to happen, in my opinion. What do you think? What do you think would help bring people back?
I think one of the things that I kind of will put out there right now is, I mean, even though we are the old fogies, I know we have some Gen Z that are listening to the show.
Sure, we do.
And so we would need their feedback.
Yeah.
Gen Z, if we're wanting Gen Z to come aboard, it's probably good if you tell us how to do that.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Which, to that end, I met a great guy in Pomona that has given me some great feedback about a bunch of this. And so, multiple people, don't mean to diminish anybody or forget anybody. I'm sorry that, but they give great feedback about, like, even the registration process and that. And you're right. And so we're close to then streamlining that, because it's cumbersome and weird. And so we have some of these to fix for sure. But you're exactly right. Please, I'm accessible. My email is literally john@kingsnake. You can spell it the proper way, JON or JOHN, and both will get to me. So,
Smart thinking, John.
Yeah, right. Hey, it's like I've seen that error before. But so that is the thing. Like, you're right. send me feedback. Tell me what it is. Tell me how we could do that better, what it is that will make it more ideal. Another example is in the classifieds, the first version of it. We had a bunch of noise about like, oh, you're in the bullet classified and all of this. And then it was the classified ads. And so we've gone ahead and rearranged that just simply and easily to make sure that the ad that you clicked on, that's what you see first. Canadian sections, Canada still need a real classified. So yeah. Internationally, I think generally we have a opportunity on that there's a couple of things that we got in the works on that. That's, I think, all I'll say on that part for right now.
Cool.
Fantastic.
So another thing that I like from the past that I think would be cool, that would definitely, it would get people there, is they had those pages, like they had the Picture Office page, and you would click on that, and it was just, I think it was KJ Jewin was his deal, Lodrug or something like that. And he just went and literally made species accounts right there on the page. And it was click, and there were all the taxa, and then click, this is the nerdy side.
Yes.
Those don't exist anywhere besides Wikipedia anymore. And I feel like a taxon page that you would click, and then there's just a little connection to the forum. So you're reading and you're geeking out, and then that's your data piece. But then you're like, oh my God, I'm jazzed. And then boom, it dumps you right into the forum where people are actually working with them, asking questions, very currently. That's a thing that would be cool, I think.
I think you're right. Can you help me a little bit with like a little bit of the distinction on that one between having like that section showing like the locales and some of the morph stuff behind it, and those, like, where would you differentiate the taxon on that? Like, you're thinking like a whole section of those ones lined out, and so you would be able to go
literally
Pitchiophis and
same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
It would just be, back in the day, they had like milk snakes, king snakes, Pitchiophis. And that's where, if you were like, what the hell is a Conant's milk snake? I remember thinking that. And you would go there, and it was like you said, it was reduced down, so you don't have to go get the 1985 monograph on milk snakes, which is like reading tax code. There's a really cool picture of a freaking Conant's milk snake that someone is even holding. And then you just explain what the hell it is. No different. You could do it for Alterna with the different localities, kind of like what Merker did with his book. But having maybe the up-to-date people that are the people, because that helps them too. If you have the false water cobra guy here, and I don't want to make a website, but I can go to King Snake and help you all out and make the false water cobra website at kingsnake.com. Then when people are talking to me, I then go, hey, go to this website. That's what I'm saying. And then boom, it sends them right there.
I love every part of this. And this is exactly what we want to do. And it, like, exactly to your point of having the experts in the field and such to help contribute to that. Again, I'd like any of you guys that are those experts and want to contribute, like, we're here, we're ready to go. So
almost becomes like a vetted reptile Wikipedia. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And so you see that of like who wrote it and stuff. And so you have that immediately like, oh, and I think that that's also one that, like, we've been trying to think about too. Like, if you're the person that contributes to that, there needs to be something almost different about you on the forums and such as well. So it's like, no, this guy wrote the book. Like, you know what I mean?
You literally just had the milk snake guy in the chat say,
I saw that.
I'm like, become the most incredible thing the world has ever known. I know some guys. Like,
that's a familiar name.
Aaron Bass Fire.
Send me a note. I would love to talk to you about it. Like, I'm completely serious about that this is exactly what we want to do. You asked about how does it succeed? How is it a success? This right here, by having people contribute.
So one thing that CCR is gigantic about, and this is the thing that makes Colubrid Fest what it is, and our Clint and I are all about heart. Like, we really care about people caring. And I love the grassroots piece, because that is, I don't care if I'm dogging on Facebook. That's what's lost on Facebook is that, some of the groups it's maintained, but you get that one person in that group and it all goes to hell. And it's almost like they bring the trolls and goblins with them. But this would be different because, I'm telling everybody, my saying for 2026 is, are you a good witch or a bad witch? That's what I'm asking every single person I interact with. I want to work with good witches because, they can get the things done that the bad witches can't. So with that being said, if there was a way that they get a little bit of vetting or it could, not that it's prestige, I'm not getting at that, but it's more like you're sharing your knowledge and you've earned the right to do that through your effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's that's what's missing right now in herpetoculture. And this could be the place that happens.
And I agree. I think that it is, because that it is one of those of where, like, a lot of times you don't know who you're talking to in some of those, and that, this person literally wrote the book and knows their stuff. And so we're actively trying to figure that piece out as well, because then it encourages the brilliant titans of the industry to participate and discuss and share the knowledge that they've gained. Right. And I think one other piece of that, not to dog on Facebook, but right, half the time you're arguing with some bot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like,
that's a bad witch.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's one of the differences with us is that, it's people. You're going to argue with people. You're going to discuss with other people in the community and that. And yeah. So
I remember.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, one of the things I like about, this idea and this setup is, so when we talked about the podcast, we've had this discussion. I've actually had the same discussion with others, where the reason that I love being a part of a podcast is I feel that right now, this is one of the most trusted forms of quote unquote journalism that's out there. Okay. And it's, even if we take the word journalism out and put information, and I think it's trusted because, and I don't just mean like CCR is trusted, just podcasts that are trusted because they can be long form, that you get the full conversation, you get, it's a lot of opinion based, but you get to know the individuals that the opinions are coming from. And what's great about, like, for us, we get to bring these experts in certain species that may not have the platform to get their knowledge thrown out to so many in other ways. Well, not everybody is going to want to watch a 2-hour episode in order to gain what they're trying to get, on a certain species. And so it's great because this will then have another avenue in more of a printed form for, them to access this library of information from individuals who may not have had other ways to share the great knowledge that they have. And because that's what it's all about for us, is it's just getting more knowledge and community building at the same time out there. So I think this is really great idea.
You're right that it is. And I think and because that it is personal, right? To your point, you watch the podcast and people have seen Zac and Clint, they've seen you guys, and you guys are consistent through your opinions and your different way of looking at things, or even when you change your point of view because you've learned new information or whatever that this is. And that's what builds that trust compared to somebody reading a script or any of these different things, which kind of exactly the same way of what I'm hoping for with King Snake as well, right? It's difficult to go get your knowledge out here. Here's the central hub of the community where you can share that, it's available, and we understand. And then you want to go discuss with us and stuff there. We understand because we know who you are. You're a real person and supporting this, right? So.
Okay.
Love it.
Well, we're near the end.
I was going to say, hit him with the final. I want to hear.
We're going to hit you with the final because I want to hear. So we always ask people, where do you? So the future of herpetoculture, and by future we mean next 1 to 5 years. We're not talking like way out there. Is versus where we are today. Do we like what we're seeing if we're John? Do we not like what we're seeing? Is there area for growth? Is it great the way it is? Just tell us what you think after this crazy trip you've been on over the past couple months.
Yeah.
Tell us what where you think herpetoculture is going.
I think it's going in a good direction. I think that we have probably the same concerns around laws and some of that we frequently have. And so I think, thankful for like USARC and some of these guys that help protect us on those. And we got to watch out for that. If we ignore that piece of it, and I think about where it's going, I'm actually super excited that in the last 6 to 12 months, kind of as I mentioned earlier, like the number of people that are refocusing into stuff that they're passionate about, that is going to be the best thing for the entire community. The more people that enjoy what they're working with, work on something just because they enjoy it, like that's where it should be going. When I look at the things of some of the stuff that's potentially a negative look on the market of like, oh, it's slowing down. Well, it seems to be slowing down on chasing money, which I think is totally fine. Where, like thinking about that in like the ball python market and some of those, right? Like let more people being like, I'm not going to chase these different genes or those instead. I'm super passionate about this locality of gray-banded king snakes or whatever. Those are the things I'm excited about and where I think we're going the right direction. I think with the different genetic testing, with all the kind of different science and stuff that's going into a bunch of those, that's going to make stuff even more fascinating. And it's going to be really interesting to me to see what happens with the different species in some of these, with a bunch of these locales and kind of animals from the very specific regions, like what happens. And then what does that mean then moving forward with, we've crossed a bunch of these out. And so we can't import stuff through some of those. So I'm super interested to see what happens in like both of those sides, like that locale side of, continuing to work down this and keep things pure. But then also what crazy things are people going to breed and come up with in the next little while?
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend. Well, you have Colubrid and Colubroid Radio's undying support because this is absolutely something we back 110%.
Thank you.
So with that being said, people want to help. People want to give you some, perspective. You just want to chat with John. How do you go about doing that?
Shoot me an email, john@kingsnake.com. You can message us through the Facebook, Instagram, like any of these, whatever you want. Like you can get through those. You will find me. I can get in touch with you. And so please get in touch with us. We want to know what's going on. We want to do right by you. I want to do what's right for the community. And the more guidance that I get from you all on what you need and what would make it the best for you, the better we can do.
Perfect.
Love it.
All righty, Clint. Where can people reach out to you?
You can get a hold of me at metazotics@gmail.com. You can always see what we have available at metazotics.com. And of course, use coupon code CC Radio at checkout. Save yourself 5%. On Facebook, it's Clint Bartley or Metazotics. And on Instagram, it's MetazoticsLLC.
Perfect. If you want to get a hold of me, Zac Loughman on Facebook, Dr. Crawdad on Instagram. I forgot to say this last time. I bumbled into some more false water cobra books. So if people want a copy of the book, reach out to me now and I can sell it to you, ship it out your way. I got boxes in the mail today from Amazon to make sure that they don't get banged to hell and back. And if you're hearing this and you got a book that was banged to hell and back, I want you to reach out to me. I found out at Pomona that one of the people, I sent one to Rami, if you know Rami, and it didn't come in great shape. And that is not sitting well with me. So please let me know. You all know that I'm the book nerd. It is insanely hypocritical that the book nerd sends you a damaged book. So anyway, that's just not going to happen. So anyway, we can talk about that. If you are a young person and you're considering going to college and working with snakes, please consider West Liberty University. We have a growing collection of reptiles. While snakes were the focus, holy mother of God, we're getting turtles. We have so many turtles. Everywhere I turn around, there's a flipping turtle. So, but I'm excited about the turtles because the turtles, we're working on getting poached turtles back into the wild, which is something I am extremely passionate about doing. And we're working with AZA to get that done. We're working with the state of West Virginia to get that done. So lots of fun field work, radio telemetry, roaming through the woods, chasing turtles. So if you like turtles, you don't know it, but you like West Liberty. So hit me up for that.
I like turtles.
I know. I have said I like turtles so many times. And the thing that is funny is my students are too young to know it.
They don't even get it.
Yeah. And so I say, I like turtles like that. And then they look at me like, what the hell? Is he having an aneurysm? I'm like, what the hell? So we've aged out on that one, guys. So anyway, so be it evening, morning, afternoon, or night, whatever time of day it is, have a good one. And thank you for listening/watching Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Have a good one.